Welcome to Uncaged. Today we're speaking with Chris Richards. Chris, it's great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. No pressure with that kind of intro.
Yeah,
Let's go.
no pressure.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
pressure.
only movers and shakers here, Chris. So
Okay. I'll do
big,
the
big,
best I can.
big shoes to fill. Chris is the founder and CEO of Legacy as a Benefit, which is a retention operating system designed to convert traditional compensation into long term capital formation. We'll get more into the Legacy as a Benefit business model in a second. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit more about you, Chris. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so fun fact, a struggling entrepreneur, failed more times than I succeeded. I feel like I am a walking cliche.
That's true of all entrepreneurs. I was actually, interestingly enough, talking to someone over the last week about understanding failure. It was a woman. She's a middle-aged lady from Miami, and she's considering setting up her own business, and she's not an entrepreneur, right? And she had it was so fascinating to see her mindset of failure avoidance, you know? So everything was like, but what if it doesn't work? What if that doesn't work? And I said, well, yeah, it might, then it doesn't work. It's just such a different thing when I speak to entrepreneurs because, I'll chat with like a real entrepreneur and I'll be like, so, John, how did it go? And he goes, it flopped. And they'll just be like, they're just like deadpan. They're like, really? Oh man, it was such a good idea. So I know it's a great idea, but we it just didn't work for this, and this. And you're like, and he goes like, but I'm working on this new thing. It's awesome. So it's
Yay!
like, so it's just a different mentality of how to look at problem, challenge, solution, move forward.
It is, and I say all the time too, like I laugh at myself because usually entrepreneurs are their own worst critics, right? We're really hard on ourselves. We tend to overthink. But I say you learn more when you fail than when you win, right? So just pick up the Lego pieces, put them back together, keep pushing, and what's going to come out of it is going to be that next evolvement of what you should be doing, right? So I celebrate all entrepreneurs, win, lose, or fail. Like go try, like go give it a shot,
Absolutely.
give it a shot.
And at some point, you're the entrepreneur and the brains behind Legacy as a Benefit. So tell me more about what you're building.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a story. I think it's important, like all things that start, there's usually something behind it that's a sizable shift, right? I've been in financial services for the better part of my career, about 15 years. Financial advisement to financial planning. The shift for me came in November of 2023, and my wife's Apple Watch was pinging over and over and over. And it's about 8 o'clock at night, and she didn't feel good. And 5 o'clock in the morning, she still wasn't feeling good. And her watch was pinging because her resting heart rate was over 130 beats per minute. So we said, okay, honey, we got to take you to the hospital. So we take her to Norwalk Hospital here in Connecticut, and the issue was severe. Norwalk couldn't handle her. So they took her to Danbury. Danbury couldn't handle her. And they had to do emergency surgery because my wife's heart was failing at a rapid speed. Her heart function was down to about 8%. And where the idea came from is I'm in the front yard and I'm with my four sons. I'm playing catch with the two bigger ones, and we have a set of twins, and my little twins were by my feet. And I just got off the phone with the doctor of the severity of the issue.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a chance we were going to lose my wife.
Oof.
And for all the knowledge that I have and all the expertise and everything that I've done, my plan was not good enough. And I do this for a living, right? My in-laws are stressed. We don't know what's going to happen. And I simply said to myself, if I feel this way, and I've planned, but I couldn't plan well enough because life gets in the way, there's financial restraints, there's everything,
Mm-hmm.
people are going to have a really big problem. And I don't want anybody to feel the way that I feel, and I know what I'm doing, right? So if I really know what I'm doing and my plan wasn't good enough, I said, something's got to shift, right? So she ended up getting surgery done, pacemaker, balloon pump, all kinds of stuff. She was in Columbia, down in New York City for over a month, right? She's rebounded, but the challenge is there's no chance to plan anymore, There's nothing
Hmm.
we could do, right? And she was 35 years old when this happened, right? So coming out of that, I my shift was out of fear, and the fear was so great. I said something's got to evolve to get better, right? How can we get better? And I went to work, and it took me a long time to build this out on what we've created. We'll talk more about it, but the story is at its simplicity is fear is generally a pretty big motivator. Out
Hmm.
of that fear, I wanted to make sure we can create something that people realistically couldn't build on their own, and we need the companies to do that.
Wow. I mean, I want to know more, Chris, because I think it's a fascinating thing. I'm someone now in my early to mid 50s, and, I'm noticing, for better or for worse, a lot of folks, a lot of my peers are having a lot of health issues all of a sudden. And, so you start to realize, like, wow,
Yeah.
got to think about this stuff, got to
Yeah.
take care of ourselves, got to, like, really
And it's
be
expensive.
smart, right? So tell me more about the legacy as a benefit model.
So I'll tell you, legacy as a benefit is a derivative to really one question, right? So we go from question to philosophy to the company creation. The question that I ask to leaders, HR, CHROs, CEOs, CFOs, COOs, is at its simplicity is what can organizations help employees build they realistically couldn't build on their own? Right, so that's the question, like water to a rock, that I'm going to keep repeating. Because it's not about the solution. I have one solution to that, and it's an anchor that we need to create. But when we figure that out, that key question, and
Hmm.
then we realize the philosophy behind the question, which I'll go into a second, that's where the company got created. So, that question, especially for listeners, I would encourage anybody to ask this is what can organizations help employees build they realistically couldn't build themselves?
Hmm.
Because if the answer is salary, benefits, retirement plans, successful people can build that on their own. They don't need the company to do that. Hence why we have a retention problem,
Hmm.
right? And an attraction problem and a culture problem. We don't have the anchor that's created. But the philosophy I think you'll really dig is fun fact, I'm a bit of an 80s dork, right? I love everything 80s band, right? So the spine of legacy as a benefit is Newton's cradle. And do you know what Newton's
Okay.
cradle is? For those who
Well,
don't know it,
refresh everyone's mind on it. I think
right?
it's
For
a
those who
great
don't know it,
concept. Yeah.
it was five metal balls that used to sit on a desk generally in the 80s. The great thing about Newton's cradle is you pick up one ball, right? It hits, the other three barely move, but it sends the fourth and fifth one up in the air, and that fifth one comes back,
Hmm.
and it keeps going. It's perpetual motion, right? What I love about that, it's physics. It's a perfect transfer of energy. That's my favorite thing. They annoying as they may be because they don't stop going back and forth. The spine of legacy as a benefit is most companies operate on four, right? Think salary. The first ball that you pick up is a salary. That's going to create the employment. That employment's going to hit into, the salary's going to hit into what? Bonus. If you do a good job, that's great. You should be rewarded for it. To benefits, to retirement, but there's no fifth ball. So the philosophy behind what I do is what's that fifth ball? Now I have one answer, but I'm seeking more, hence why I keep asking that question, right? And legacy as a benefit kicks out of that because that creates the anchor, right? That's what creates the anchor that makes employees want to stay.
That's great. And I mean, obviously, I think you're answering a big challenge that people face. Are you finding that when you're bringing this out to the marketplace, that there are certain aspects of that are popping now more than other topics?
Well, there's multiple challenges, right? Nobody really does what I do. That's challenge number one. Challenge number two, from the 10,000 foot perspective down, companies think it's about how you feel, right? If you feel included, if you feel engaged. And I was at a retention by design event in Philadelphia last week, and I think you'll appreciate this because I was there for 4 hours and it was a great session. It was for medical, which has a bit of a attraction and retention issue. And what I mean by a lot of companies now are talking about how people feel, how they're included, all very important,
Hmm.
right? All very important. But after 4 hours, I just simply stood up and I said, hey, let's do an experiment. All of your salaries are gone tomorrow. How many are staying because the culture is awesome, right? And then the people at my table were like, I would leave. I was like, so we get that the culture and everything you guys are trying to build the last 5 or 10 years is a bigger part of the flywheel, right? That's critical, but we cannot discredit compensation. right? But what we can't do, and this is where I kind of come in, is we can't just keep increasing salaries,
Yeah.
right? It's getting out of track. And in my build, can you increase the salary? Yes, but it's very important to me that we protect the employer,
Hmm.
right? Because if you give somebody 10 or 15% more and they still leave in 3 years, how much of that can you get back? Well, that's zero.
Yeah.
So one of the challenges we have when we go to market is we have what's called retention capital. No, nobody has it because we created it. Simply say, hey, you're putting a lot of money into salary, benefits, bonuses, 401ks, SSP, non-qualified deferred comp. What's your bucket for retention? And if it doesn't work, how much of that bucket can you pull back to go replace the person that left?
Mm.
Right. So
That's
that
great.
those are the challenges that we have. That it's new to the market. Kind of how we reframed it is new, but it's getting people to understand how can we leverage the dollar now that's going to be much more impactful in the future as opposed to just the short-term gain and the monetary expense you probably could go spend anyway.
And I again, Chris, I don't want to get caught in the weeds, but as a business owner,
Yeah.
tell me what are the benefits for me outside of the obvious, outside of the fact that if I hold on to talented people, that's great. But are there tax benefits
There's
here,
always
things like
things,
that?
right? Anytime you do it, the company gets the tax deduction. Most companies
Hmm.
care about the tax deduction, they don't. Everybody's a little different, right? Every company and every organization is different because the plan, how we build them, are architected from the ground up,
Hmm.
right? The tax deduction is one. More it's candidly around the PR spin to say, look, we want to do something different. We want to not only impact this generation, but the next generation. We want to impact legacy, we want to impact integrity, and we want to help them build wealth faster than they probably could on their own. While we're doing that, we just need them to stay within inside the organization for a set period of time. And know that time's not 20 years, Barry. It's anywhere from 5 to 10. So
Yeah.
if you stay here, you get this, you own it. And yes, you get tax deductions, all the cool stuff, but it's more about how can we make an impact and disrupt the industry, and not only that, be a differentiator from your competitors.
Right. Yeah.
That's,
I think probably like some startups do it with options a little bit, probably,
you can
options
have stock
packages.
options, but that only
Yeah.
clarifies one thing, right?
Yeah.
In our world, we have a tall order of things to hit, right? We
Hmm.
have to make sure the legacy there, the integrity's there, and the wealth accumulation is there. All that doesn't
Yeah.
conflict with ERISA.
It's so interesting because what I hear, it's it's something that I often say. People often kind of freak out about like, well, what's the future of work? What's the future of work? What's going to happen? It's like, well, I don't know, but as far as I know, people are still going to have to work. At least
Yeah.
guys like me are
Yeah.
are still going to have to work.
That's not
You know?
changing. And that
Yeah.
question that I ask, Ben, I want it to sit on top of everything, right? So
Yeah.
the question that I always ask is, what can organizations help employees build? They really can build themselves. Is going to sit on top of AI. It's going to sit on top of attraction. It's going to sit on top of retention and culture and enterprise value. Because if we keep asking that question, compensation is going to start to evolve. Because think
Hmm.
about compensation at its simplicity, right? Non-qualified deferred compensation 1950,
Hmm.
401ks 1978, which to replace the pension. Not a big
Yeah.
fan of that because pension was an anchor. Even in 1983, less than 10% of the companies in the United States even offered a 401k. It wasn't
Yeah.
until 1993 they offered the match till people started saying, hey, we should probably do this. Now it's the largest
Hmm.
savings vehicle. The last
Hmm.
evolution was HSAs in 2003.
Yeah.
And it proved that the employee can understand how tax efficiency can impact what they do monetarily,
Yeah.
right? That there's a next evolution coming. I'm not saying I have it. I don't. I have one
Yeah.
answer to retention and attraction, but that question I want more answers to that question so we can collectively get better.
I like it. It seems like a better solution than what I see sometimes in the public sector. So probably like all groups of friends, I have a very close knit group of friends that I grew up with. Some of them have gone into public service, and what I find in their roles is that they're kind of locked in. Like they're it's quite a juicy package when you look at it from a lifetime perspective.
Sure. I call it an anchor. What's the anchor, right? What's holding
Yeah,
the
so I think
employee
I
down?
have one guy who's retiring next year. And we're not that he's not that old, he's in his 50s, but he's been there long enough now where he qualifies for this kind of very juicy pension type structure. But it's made him loyal. Like he's locked in, he knows what it is, etc. And it's always that balance that we have in on the private sector, which is how do we keep quality talent comfortable, happy, not worried about so when they face those challenges that you presented with your wife, but at the same time that the business remains nimble, flexible, can kind of like make shifts if it has to. It's always a dance. We have operations in Europe, and in Europe, we find that the laws are so beneficial for the employees
Yeah.
that it makes it very hard for our operating unit there to make changes happen. Not just on the staffing perspective, but just implementing any investment becomes a much more complicated process because of it. And that I think has really hurt the European economy, to be honest.
Sure.
And so it's always kind of like finding that balance of like, how do we incentivize talent? How do we get them in? I love what you're talking about, Chris. This is
Well, you
exactly
can't.
what the
I think this.
market
So
needs.
go back to
Yeah.
like equity, phantom stock. Like you hire. So Bant hires me, Christopher.
Hmm.
Right. My salary earns my employment. Right. That's great. But what earns the retention? That's performance. Right. We want to make sure we retain you because you could do X, Y, and Z. But we also can't dismantle portions of the company like future equity, stock options, things that the company might need in the event that things go up and down, which they always do. Leverage something that's a controllable entity that's not tied to 15, 20, or 30 years, that in the event that it doesn't work, you actually have a mechanism now in retention capital you can pull back. Right.
Hmm.
And that's the critical thing to make sure the company itself still stewards forward, right? That's so important to me. We just can't be so quick to give up titles and things like that. Like earn it, but when you earn it, watch what we're gonna do, right? Check this out. Not only are we gonna do ba 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 ba, but now outside of work you're gonna ba ba bow, and you own that from day one. We just need you to be here, and all that stuff you have to do by yourself. We covered it. We got you. We're funded,
Yeah.
right? With
It's funny, on that kind of world, like I feel like the world that we created over the last 15, 20 years is one of these ones where we've been able to cut costs, but you do have to do it yourself,
yep,
and it's kind of funny because sometimes when I have generational discussions with my family about politics and things like that, they often are looking for a solution that kind of takes care of you, right? Like it's like, but we want a system and it's funny because I'm like, but I'm the IKEA generation. Like I built my own furniture. I had to do everything, but it does make it really confusing. There's no doubt
yeah.
about it.
And
And
technology makes it more difficult.
yeah, the technology has made it harder for
Made
us.
it harder because
And
now it
so
overloads you with
if you're able
answers.
to find a balance, that's exactly what's missing. Well, I love that. Well, tell me a little bit, Chris, to wrap things up on where you see things going in the near future in your space.
Well, I think, like all things, we have to keep asking better questions. Whether my company sustains and does great things throughout the world, that's not relevant. What's most important is, hey, can we continue to ask questions and how to get better, right?
Hmm.
And continue seeing both sides. We just can't be so one-sided on the employee, and we can't be so one-sided on the employer. Both have to be represented at the table. And if we ask questions as a collective unit, and both sides are cohesive in the approach, just like pensions, right? I work for you for 20 years, I get financial security, you take that away, where's the loyalty?
Hmm.
Keep asking better questions as things evolve, from
Hmm.
technology to people to circumstance. If we continue to do that, we can stay on track and on top of the things that are going to come underneath it, right? So if we just keep asking better questions, I'll certainly keep asking mine. That's not going to change. keep trying to evolve. And I would often say to the people listening and the leaders, my ask of everybody there is be curious, not judgmental, right? Walt Whitman. When somebody like me comes around to be creative, to create this, be curious about what it is. Don't judge, be curious. Because
Mm-hmm.
those things might change the trajectory, right? It
Yeah.
might change the point of view. It might shift the culture, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I see it going. Keep asking better questions. Continue to be curious. Adapt, and I think we can. I think we got this.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, listen, Chris, thanks so much for coming on the show. If someone wanted to learn more about you as well as Legacy as a Benefit, where's the best place to find you?
Listen, LinkedIn is the best place, but you can also go to the website, www.legacyasabenefit.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's Christopher Richards, CEO and founder of Legacy as a Benefit. We're always doing fantastic content with the help of Cunary as well to continue to go out there and just put the drips on the rock, right? You'll find a lot of great stuff.
Excellent. Well, Chris, great to have you on the show. And I think we've been talking about one of these topics that often gets overlooked. It's a real we've seen, I'd say talent discussions on benefits really obsess over healthcare costs. We look at companies are worried about healthcare. How much are they paying for healthcare? Is it unfair? Is there a better way? And to be honest with you, that's a real struggle. It still is a struggle in the US for every business under the sun.
Yep.
But also a big topic has been, how do you make sure that your employees are able to take care of themselves and really kind of leverage the stuff that you offer them to make sure that they're okay, make sure that they're planned, and I think really what Chris is doing here is coming up with a new solution, a better solution, and demand us all to kind of push for new ideas in this space. And I think that's spot on. So, Chris, thank you so much. Really enjoyed chatting with you today, and we look forward to having you back on the UNCAGED show.
Anytime. Thanks, man.
Cheers, buddy.